It feels like we're all just swimming in this constant flood of information these days, just noise.
Hmm.
And there's this real longing for, I don't know, some peace, maybe even an escape.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that.
But what if the answer isn't about switching off, but actually like properly connecting? Connecting with a place that really resonates deep down.
That's a really interesting angle, and what's compelling about the sources you've pulled together for this deep dive is exactly that. How a place, a physical location, can offer that kind of profound reset.
Exactly.
We're going to explore a place that, well, the material suggests for many people is not just a spot on a map, it's somewhere they hold in their heart, really.
Precisely. We are talking about Himachal Pradesh in India, and what jumps out from the sources you shared is how they describe it as, not just a state, but this full-on sensory experience.
Hmm.
You've got these descriptions of towering snowy peaks, the air smelling like pine, rivers winding through valleys, monasteries clinging to cliffs.
And those little mountain cafes.
Yes, where time just slows down. So our mission here in this deep dive is to really unpack all these sources, your notes, the articles, everything,
Hmm.
and pull out the key bits, the most important nuggets of insight. Basically give you a shortcut to understanding Himachal's amazing diversity, the landscapes, that spiritual core, the unique culture.
Consider it a journey, maybe, into what the material paints as a truly special mountain region.
Okay, let's start that journey then, drawing from these vivid descriptions you've got. The material seems to kick things off in what it calls the gateway towns. Sounds like the classic starting points.
That's right. And the first one that really gets focus is Shimla, often called the Queen of
Well,
Hills.
Queen of Hills, okay.
Yeah, and the sources talk about its very distinct colonial soul. You see it in the old buildings, the winding roads.
Right.
But what's really emphasized is that toy train journey from Kalka.
Ah, the toy train. I've heard about that.
It sounds like it's more than just transport. The sources portray it as, like, setting the whole mood. It winds through about 100 tunnels, apparently, surrounded by pine forests.
Wow. So it's an immersion right from the start.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the feeling you get from the description.
And your notes really bring Mall Road alive, too. Sunset, street musicians, the sky turning orange over the hills. It paints a picture of this vibrant, almost old-world charm, like stepping back a bit.
Exactly. But then the material shifts gears pretty quickly. It moves us over to Manali, and particularly Old Manali.
Okay, how's that different? The sources call it raw, more nature-heavy.
It's a definite contrast they draw. Old Manali especially comes across less like a town and more like this global crossroads.
Interesting.
Yeah, the descriptions mention cafes with Bob Marley posters, stalls selling handmade woolens, and just travelers from all over the world.
So less colonial charm, more international bohemian.
That's a good way to put it. The sources suggest it symbolizes this whole philosophy of freedom and exploration that's kind of taken root in that valley. It attracts a really unique mix of people, very different from Shimla's more structured past.
That makes sense, a different kind of energy. And for the adventurous types, your material mentions Salong Valley, snow sports, right?
Yep, Salong Valley for snow sports. And then there's Rotang Pass. One of the sources has this beautiful line about it, where snow touches your face like a blessing.
Oh, wow. Like a blessing. What do you think that implies about the experience people are looking for there?
Well, that phrase, it suggests something more than just feeling cold snow, doesn't it? It hints at maybe a spiritual connection.
Hmm.
Or just a really profound moment with nature.
Yeah.
Like the experience itself is restorative, maybe even purifying, not just an adrenaline rush.
I like that. Okay, so we've got the gateway towns, the vibrant energy, the adventure, but then the sources you've provided guide us somewhere quieter, deeper, into the spiritual sanctuaries, the part called Where Peace Lives. The whole vibe shifts here, doesn't it?
It really does. You can almost feel the shift in the descriptions for places like Dharamshala and McLeod-Ganj. There's this palpable sense of calm, of reflection.
How do the sources convey that?
It's not just saying it's quiet. It talks about the constant presence of the Tibetan monasteries, that low hum of monks chanting, the sound of prayer wheels spinning. It paints a picture of an environment that almost actively encourages a different kind of inner state.
And the Twagelang complex, your research highlights that as the residence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, that must be a powerful anchor for the spiritual feeling of the area.
Absolutely. It's presented as a focal point, a place where perhaps you can just sit and feel a sense of lightness, maybe.
Mm-hmm. But it's not all contemplation, is it? Your sources also mention active peace. What's that about?
Right, that comes up with the Tryon Trek. It's described as short but quite steep.
Okay.
But the payoff is these incredible views. The suggestion seems to be that the physical effort, the climb itself, actually adds to the spiritual clarity. You kind of earn the perspective.
Ah, I see. So the journey, the physical challenge, is part of the piece.
Exactly. It links the physical and the spiritual.
That's fascinating. Okay, so from those green, serene foothills, the material takes us somewhere completely different next to Himachal's wild soul, as it's called, Spiti Valley.
Yes, the cold desert's whisper. That title itself tells you something's changing.
It does. So what makes Spiti so profoundly different from, say, Shimla or Dharamshala, based on your sources?
Well, the key thing your sources stress is the stark contrast. Forget the lush green. Spiti is described as dry, starkly beautiful, dramatic, and deeply spiritual.
But a different kind of spiritual.
I think so. The silence there isn't just quiet. It's described almost as a presence, something that makes you feel very small, but also very connected, even amidst this raw, untamed landscape.
And the buildings there sound incredible. Key monastery, perched high on a cliff, like something from a fantasy novel, one source says.
It does sound amazing. And that positioning, as the material points out, it's not just practical. It speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About wanting to be elevated, detached.
A literal spiritual ascent.
Kind of, yeah. It symbolizes that striving. And then you have the natural wonders, like Chandrota Lake, a crescent-shaped jewel.
Beautiful.
Your sources paint this picture of camping there, under these incredibly clear night skies, feeling wrapped in a blanket, stars everywhere, absolute silence. Just you and the universe.
Oh, no. That sounds like an experience that really shifts your perspective, pushes your boundaries.
That's the sense you get. It transcends the everyday.
But how does that harshness, that raw landscape, lead to inner quiet? What do the sources suggest about that connection?
It seems to imply that the sheer scale of it all, the isolation, it forces a kind of humility, a presence. There's just less noise, fewer distractions.
Right.
So the external quiet makes space for the internal. The lack of stimulation actually becomes an invitation to look inward.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's shift gears again. From the starkness of Spiti, the notes bring us to the Parvati vibes. Sounds intriguing. Bohemian rhythms, natural springs.
Yeah. This section zooms in on Parvati Valley, and specifically Kasol. Described as really laid back, very backpacker friendly.
Okay.
The sources say the vibe there is all about freedom. And they give specifics: Israeli cafes, reggae music playing, yoga sessions happening right by the river. It points to this specific microculture that's formed there.
A haven for global wanderers, maybe?
Seems like it. A place where they find a shared wavelength.
And your notes also mention Tosh, a hidden gem village surrounded by snowy peaks. How does that fit in?
Tosh comes across as maybe a quieter version of the Kasol vibe. Still free-spirited, but more immersed in nature, more solitude. For people who want that atmosphere, but maybe a bit less bustle.
Finding your own little pocket of freedom within the valley.
Exactly. And it's not just about chilling out. The sources highlight Karagunga, this natural hot spring, incredibly, at 13,000 feet.
Wow, 13,000 feet.
Yeah. And the material suggests it's more than just a geographical marvel. It's like this natural reward at the end of a trek, a symbol of earned comfort, perhaps.
That's a great image, earn natural comfort. So the whole Parvati Valley. One source says it's where hippies, sages, and people who came for a week and stayed for years ended up. That's quite a statement.
It really is. That specific phrase, came for a week and stayed for years, that tells you something profound, right?
Yeah.
It signals that Parvati isn't just a holiday spot for these people. It becomes a lifestyle. It suggests the place resonates so deeply that it offers a real alternative way of living, attracting those looking for freedom, maybe spiritual exploration too.
A magnetic pull. I get that. Okay, next up in our deep dive, the hidden jewels. Places off the main tourist track.
Right. Less commercial, less crowded, offering the soft whispers of the state, as one source puts it.
Soft whispers. I like that. What do these spots tell us about Himachal that maybe Shimla or Kasol don't?
They reveal a different kind of authenticity, I think. A capacity for real, quiet immersion. Your material mentions Jibbi, for example.
Jibbi.
Yeah. Described as a small village, wooden houses, soft fog, a quiet river. And this detail. You wake up to bird calls and fall asleep to fireflies.
Oh, that sounds idyllic.
It really does.
It is.
That detail, it's not just pretty. It symbolizes this complete break from urban noise, right? A return to natural rhythms, like resetting your internal clock.
Total tranquility.
Oh,
And then there's Tirthan Valley, known for trout fishing, eco-stays, dense forests.
Mm-hmm. And your notes add that there's even a chance of spotting a Himalayan bear, which adds this little touch of genuine wildness to the
Right,
piece.
it's not just quiet, it's properly wild too.
Exactly. It suggests these places offer engagement with nature on its own terms. And Chitkul is another one mentioned,
Beautiful.
described as the last inhabited village on the Indo-Tibet border, offering the freshest air.
Wow, the last village.
Yeah, that detail, it evokes this feeling of being right on the edge, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Deeply connected to pure, untouched nature.
You can almost taste that air. And finally, Kalpa. Close-up views of the Kinnar Kailash peaks. Your material mentions a sacred feeling there.
Yes, especially in the evening. It describes the sun painting the mountains pink and orange. It suggests the landscape itself inspires a kind of reverence.
Like the mountains aren't just scenery.
Exactly. They become this canvas for something sacred, a visual spiritual experience almost, connecting the landscape directly to a sense of the divine as the sources imply.
It's amazing how varied these experiences are. So we've covered peaks, valleys, towns, spiritual spots. But your sources rightly point out that Himachal is more than just landscapes. It's got a local soul, the people, the food.
Yeah, this is a really crucial shift in the material. Moving beyond the scenery to the human element, it's what truly brings a place alive, isn't it?
Definitely.
It highlights those everyday scenes.
Mm.
Old women knitting by the road, kids playing cricket on a slope somewhere, childless sharing stories.
Small moments.
Small, authentic moments.
Mm.
Your sources stress how these contribute to the warmth, the genuine character of Himachal.
That's where you find the real flavor. And speaking of flavor, what about the food? The sources mention specific dishes. Madra, Sidhu, Babaru, all described as steaming chukpa.
Mm-hmm. These dishes, as they're described, sound like more than just fuel. They speak to something comforting, hearty, communal.
Mountain food.
Exactly. Steaming chukpa, that phrase, cans warmth, sustenance. Food designed for the climate, for close-knit communities.
Mm.
Food that nourishes body and, the sources imply, maybe soul too.
Sounds like perfect comfort food after a day exploring those mountains. And for drinks, simple but important. Hot chai with lemon and ginger is recommended.
Yeah, it's a small detail, but it grounds the experience, doesn't it? It captures that simplicity and warmth of daily life there. A little taste of everyday hospitality.
What a journey we've taken just through these sources, from Shimla's colonial echoes to Parvati's bohemian beat, MacLeod Gange's deep serenity, Spiti's wild majesty, these incredible hidden villages, and finally the warmth of the people and the food. It's clear Himachal Pradesh, as presented here, is just incredibly diverse, something for everyone, it seems.
And if we circle back to that initial idea, that need for escape or clarity we talked about,
Yeah.
what this deep dive really suggests is that Himachal isn't just a holiday destination. It's offered up as a place for a genuine reset for mind and heart, a place where the outside world fades a bit, and you can actually maybe hear yourself think.
Hear yourself. That's powerful. So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you, listening? Armed with these insights from the material we've explored, the sources leave us with some really potent images, don't they? They invite you to. Go where the mountains don't just stand, they watch. Where rivers don't just flow, they sing. And where strangers become stories and the sky becomes your ceiling. This deep dive really shows that sometimes the escape we need isn't from the world, but maybe deeper into a place that connects with our soul. Something to think about. What that kind of connection might mean for your own journeys, whether they're out there in the world or maybe just inside yourself.